Running a travel business can be overwhelming, but imagine if there was a single tool that helped you look professional, stay organized, was easy to use, and affordable. That's just what Travefy does. Travefy gives you the essential tools you need to look like a travel biz pro. Travefy is the most trusted system used by over 30,000 travel brands worldwide. So get started with a system that helps you get back to the joy of planning travel and run your travel business like a pro with Travefy.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Lynn, your systems and delegation coach, and I love getting to help travel advisors go from overwhelmed to being in control CEOs. I have a bunch of free resources for you as you go through Prep for Wave Week. You can scan the QR code or text the number below. I want to send you a couple really awesome things that are going to help you not be overwhelmed when the wave hits.
Hi, I'm Tom Carpenter, and I'm a travel attorney, and this is another of my sessions for Prep for Wave Week. And I want to just give Rita Perez a shout out. Thank you so much for allowing me to make these presentations. I hope people find them. I hope people find them useful. So let's go ahead and get started. So this session is going to be talking a little bit about chargebacks. So we're all super crazy busy, and when you're busy and you're booking a lot of travel, you want to make sure that you're fully protected. And so one of the leading ways that we can encounter risk is when we are handling credit card payments. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that safely. So this is where you can find me if you need to get in touch with me, just to get the preliminaries out of the way. This might be viewed as attorney advertising. I am not intending to provide specific legal advice. This is informational only. By participating in this session, we're not creating an attorney-client relationship. Prior outcomes don't guarantee future results. I say that all the time. I'm going to really just gloss over this. In addition to my law practice, where I represent clients in the travel and tourism industry, I also own a small hosted travel agency myself. So I do the same kinds of things you do when you're booking your clients with travel. So this slide shows up in almost every presentation that I do. We're going to talk about how travel is a high-risk industry, and specifically we're going to talk about the risks that attach to chargebacks. There's a session I did on fraud earlier, scams, all of those types of things. But chargebacks are really what we're going to be talking about today. So what is a chargeback? A chargeback is essentially when a cardholder books a trip with you, and they authorize you to put a payment through using their credit card. You use that card to pay the supplier, and then the client decides later on that they don't want to pay for their trip, or that they didn't have a good time and they think that they can get their money back through the credit card company. And so they reverse the charges with their credit card company. Now, under the law, under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, cardholders have the right to dispute a charge within 60 days of the date of the charge. In reality, most credit card companies will process a chargeback well beyond those 60 days if the cardholder asks to have a charge reversed. When a cardholder tells the credit card company that it wasn't authorized, what that really means is that they're telling the credit card company that it's a fraudulent charge. I think a lot of times when people reverse these credit card charges, they think it's some sort of satisfaction guarantee that they're getting their money back from the credit card company. I don't think they realize that what they're really doing is they're sort of accusing you, the travel agent, of credit card fraud because you're the one who used their credit card to put the payment through with the supplier. They're telling the credit card company, you didn't have authorization to do that. If a client does a chargeback, well, your supplier is going to get notification that the charges have been reversed. The cruise line, the tour operator, the hotel, or the resort, they then have the responsibility for defending that chargeback. And you're not really going to be involved in that process. So you don't really have a whole lot of knowledge or insight into what that process is. The supplier might demand that you prove to them that you had authorization to use the card, that you send them a credit card authorization. But if you don't have a valid authorization, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into it, the supplier is then going to send the dispute to recovery. Excuse me. meaning that you might wind up having to pay for the amount of the disputed charge. And if you don't cut the check for the amount of that disputed charge, it's possible that the supplier may deduct that amount from future commissions that are owed to you, including commissions that might be owed to other advisors in your agency. So if you're a hosted advisor, for example, and you get a chargeback with a large cruise line, maybe you don't have a whole lot of bookings with that cruise line in the pipeline, but probably some other hosted agencies under your host who are using that same IATA number to book cruises. They have bookings, and essentially they're not going to get paid their commission because you have an obligation to pay the chargeback. I have some horror stories, and I'm just going to tell a couple of those. Well, I'm just going to tell one of them actually, because I think that's really all we need to make the point. But I have a client who was talking to a client in my law practice who was talking to one of her clients about about airfare for a trip, and the client said, "Well, how much is it if we go in business class?" And the agent said it's $6,000, meaning it was $6,000 per ticket, but it was on text message. It was a text chain, and the client said, "Go ahead and book it." The agency booked 4 business class tickets at $6,000 each. And 2 days later, when it was too late to void the tickets, the client says, "Why are there 4 charges for $6,000 on my credit card statement?" And the advisor said, "Well, because there are 4 of you traveling and it's $6,000 per ticket." And the client, the traveler, claimed to not understand that and thought that that it was $6,000 for all 4 tickets. Now, putting aside, there's no way that a family of 4 can go to Europe in business class and only pay $6,000 for that. But because the travel agent didn't have a valid credit card authorization, the result was that the travel agent was responsible for essentially $24,000 of airline tickets that she thought was authorized, but she couldn't prove that it was authorized, and so that money would have come out of her pocket. So it's a pretty big problem if it happens to you, and it can be a really expensive problem to solve for sure. It's one reason that you need a good solid terms and conditions document. So a terms and conditions document, I've covered this in another session this week. It's a document that's contractual in nature, and it governs the relationship between you and your clients. And so you're going to want to have a provision in your terms and conditions document that the client is not going to do a chargeback. And once they've authorized a charge legitimately, you're going to want to have the ability to hold them responsible if that money comes out of your pocket. So you want to give yourself the ability to go to court, to enforce those terms, to explain to a judge, "Your Honor, this was not a fraudulent charge. I had authorization, and I was damaged to the tune of whatever it is, plus I'm owed attorney's fees, court costs, etc." So you want all of that language in your terms and conditions document. It's really, really important. And then the other thing that you really need to do is you need to make sure that you are always getting a valid credit card authorization each and every time that you book a trip. And so having that be part of your workflow, I don't have this as a specific thing in here, but when you book the trip, you really want to make sure that you're actually having your clients agree to those terms and conditions. I suggest that you use a client agreement to have them agree to your terms and conditions at the front end of the relationship. But you don't have to have them agree to the terms each and every time that they book a trip with you. You don't have to send them the full document. What you need to do is what you should do, I think, is take your terms and conditions, upload it to your website, tuck it away so that it lives on its own and a little page on your website, and then your client can check a box on a form in a client agreement, for example, or on a credit card authorization that says, "I agree to the terms and conditions, which are located at www.wherever you've posted it." Whether they read the terms and conditions, that's up to them. But when they agree in a credit card authorization or in a client agreement, that's enough to protect you legally. So this is a simple box for them to check on a client agreement. If you're using one of those, I'm hiring you to plan my trip, and I agree to your terms and conditions of booking, which are located at this link. And when they agree to those terms, they're agreeing to the provision that they're not going to do a chargeback. And so if you lose the chargeback dispute, or if the supplier uses the chargeback dispute, you've got a remedy there. But the real thing that's going to protect you is your credit card authorization. And I have a very strong view that you need to be getting a credit card authorization each and every time that you run a charge on your client's card. So you want to get a credit card authorization for every single transaction: when they pay your fee, when they make a deposit, when they make final payment, if they add services, if they buy insurance. Basically, you're going to get an authorization for each and every one of those charges. It needs to say what the date is that it was authorized. There needs to be a reference to the amount that's being authorized, and you need a reference to the supplier or the product that you're booking. You do not want to take numbers by email or text. You don't want to be getting authorization over the phone. That was the problem that my client who had the horror story had to deal with. It was a text back and forth. There wasn't clarity on what they were paying for. She never sent an invoice for it, and I wound up paying the price for that, and it was a pretty steep price. You don't want to let your client say, just charge my card you have on file. I know lots of people do this, and they've never had a problem with it, but it only takes one $24,000 hit to your personal bank account for you to have a problem. So, and then lastly, you don't want to store numbers in an unencrypted system because data breaches are a big problem, and you don't want to have to deal with that. During the pandemic, rather, the credit card companies changed the standard for how they resolve chargeback disputes during the pandemic. They are now requiring that in order for you to win a chargeback dispute, as part of the credit card authorization language, the client has to agree to the agency's terms and conditions as part of the authorization language, and it has to be right above the button that they click to submit the form. It has to be right above the I agree button, or the signature if you're using an e-signature. You can't have it at the top of the page and then they sign at the bottom. People have lost chargebacks because there was too much space between the authorization language and the signature. The terms and conditions also have to include, your terms and conditions also have a cancellation and refund policy, or a reference to the fact that the supplier sets the cancellation and refund policy. So if you don't have a terms and conditions document, you're already going to lose a chargeback dispute. If your terms and conditions document doesn't have the right language in it, you're going to lose a chargeback dispute, or the supplier is going to lose it, and then they're going to come after you for the money. But the new thing that they added, they're now requiring that the cancellation and refund policy has to be brought to the client's attention at the time that the charge was authorized. So this language is a little bit chewy, but this is what you need if you're going to win a chargeback dispute to show that you had legitimate authorization. I am authorizing the name of your agency to charge my card referenced above in the amount indicated, and I agree to the agency's terms and conditions of booking, and which are located at this link, including the suppliers and the agency's cancellation and refund policies, which may limit my right to a refund if I cancel or change my plan. So that's a lot. That's really, really chewy language, but that's going to be what you need in order to win a chargeback dispute. So you're going to want to put that into your whatever tech tool you're using to take authorization. But it's super important that you have that magic language, because if you're not having them agree to your terms, if the terms don't have the right stuff in it, and if you're not specifically calling out the cancellation and refund policies, you're going to probably wind up having to pay for that chargeback. Your tech tool is going to be your friend here, right? You want to have a good, solid tech tool that allows you to create customized forms like a client agreement, so that you can transmit those credit card numbers securely that has some sort of e-signature function. I think that's a good thing. And also that keeps a record or tracks when the client submits the forms and signs the documents. So if you're getting a credit card authorization through your tech tool, you can go back into your system, Travefy, TravelJoy, Turn. Turn already, the developer, full disclosure, the developers of Turn are clients of mine. My law practice, they've already put my magic language into their tool. So if you're getting an authorization through Turn, you're already good on that. But the people who are behind Travefy are friends, and they've also been mindful of giving you the ability to comply with these things. TravelJoy is something that a lot of people are using, and they've also got the ability to get a secure authorization. You just need to plug in the right language. But you need to be using some sort of tech tool. Vacation CRM, Vacation Creation, all of these tech tools are out there, and they can really, really help you. So some people ask me which is the best one. I always say the best one is the one that doesn't frustrate you. So take advantage of those free trials and try the ones that you try them, check them out, and see how you like them, and find one that you like and use it consistently. When should your clients agree to your terms? At the front end of a relationship with a new client, I would use a client agreement, because there might be some things in your terms and conditions that happen earlier in the booking process. So then you can use a client agreement for a new client that's working with you for the first time. If they've already worked with you in the past and you've already got their information in a profile, you can just have your repeat clients agree to your terms whenever they pay your fee or put a deposit down on their next trip as part of the credit card authorization. And then they're agreeing to your updated terms. But you need to make sure that you're using that magic language. So just a couple of key takeaways here. You really want to have a solid, consistent workflow to help you manage your risk. And you want to make sure that that workflow includes getting a valid credit card authorization. Using a client agreement to have them agree to your terms at the front end of the relationship is great, but you also really need to get a credit card authorization for each and every charge, and you want to use the magic language when you're getting those authorizations. And last but not least, you want to use a good, solid tech tool to make sure that you are getting your clients to agree to your terms and conditions each and every time, and that the valid authorization, that you've got the magic language and the valid authorization in there. So that is what I have for you today. And thank you so much for taking time out of your day to participate in this session. There's where you can find me if you need to get in touch with me. But I'm just so grateful to Rita for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all today. And if you need to chat with me, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to set up a consult with you. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.